This podcast is being recorded on Kaurna land. We honour and celebrate the strong cultural traditions of motherhood, family and connection to country.
How Motherhood Changed Me is brought to you by Harrison Macmillan, Australia's leading recruitment firm run by women who live by values that make their mothers proud.
No woman can say motherhood hasn't changed her, but every mother's story is different.
When you are one of the lead actors on a show, people will bend over backwards to make sure that you have your babies on set and that you are breastfeeding and you've got a room to breastfeed, and they set up toys and make sure your kids are fed and taken care of. I don't know how quote unquote regular mums do it with jobs which are 9 to 5 and they have to leave their kids at home. I just know that I've been so lucky. My kids, especially when they're really little, like I had to go back to work when Forrest was 3 weeks old.
Wow.
And he was just with me. He was just with me at work. And I would go on set for my 10 minutes of shooting, and I'd come back and my baby would be in my arms and I'd be breastfeeding off to the side, talking to the crew, and all the crew would be passing my baby around.
This is How Motherhood Changed Me.
Hello, I am Kerrie Turner. I'm Jenna Yates, and we have a very relatable episode today. We're talking about balancing work and kids. Kerrie, you went back after you had your babies.
I did.
And I'm just in awe of the mums who are able to do that. You've got the school lunches, the
Excursions, pupil-free days.
Sick kids. I mean, it is actually a real big juggle. So now I want you to imagine, on top of all of that, being a Hollywood actor, a business owner, an author, and mum to 5 kids. I've probably missed a few titles in there as well, but we are so excited to welcome in studio today Teresa Palmer.
Hi. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's
Now we start.
So cool.
We start all of our episodes with a question to our guests.
Cool.
We would love one word to describe you as a woman before you had children.
Oh, that's interesting. What would I say? I would say bouncy. Just bouncy energy, bouncing off the walls, like very high energy. Well, but that energy's dipped a little bit since
It
then.
happens.
I love that. Did you always know you wanted to be a mum?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Ever since I remember being in my house. I lived on Hill Street, Mitcham, right down the road from Mercedes College where I went to school. And I had this little back room, and it was filled with fleas because my dogs were always in there and my cats were always in there. And but it was also my like playroom as well. So all my toys were like really foul. But I had this like old stretch pram that I got from St. Vinny's that my mum got me for like $5 or something. And I used to put 6 babies in there. So I had the little boy was Popeye. I had Popeye. And then I had the girls. And I always had 6 babies. And I would just cruise around with this like janky ass little pram from St. Vinny's that I loved so much and I wish that I kept. And it was just, I was an only child. So a lot of imaginary play. And it was always like me being a mum, like, now we're going to the supermarket. Now I'm putting my babies to bed. It's like, they're all like, I had sextuplets, I assume, because they were all the same. All my babies were the same age. So
you were busy.
Yeah, I was a busy
mama.
woman. I'm a busy mum. Yeah, but I've always wanted kids. And my nana had 8 children.
Wow.
And I'd go to her house every weekend, and I'd sit next to her and I'd hold her hand, and she'd tell me stories about raising these beautiful babies in England with her community and her friends. And it was the best time of her life and the best years. And for me, I was like, that is everything. I just want to do that. That's what I want with my life. And right before she died, my career was taking off as an actress. And she was like, this is really exciting, and I know that's one of your dreams, but I know what your biggest dream is, and your biggest dream is to be a mummy. And I was like, it is. You know me so well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did she get to meet any of your brothers?
No, sadly
Yeah.
not. She died in 2011, and I didn't meet my husband until the following year. But I do feel like she had a little part
Maybe she
in
was
bringing him.
twisting the strings.
Yes.
Exactly,
That's
weaving the fabric from the other
Beautiful.
side.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was cool.
In LA, so you go over to LA as a young actress ready to make it big. And I just wonder, what were your examples of motherhood in LA? Because it does seem like it's, I don't know, there's
Worlds apart.
worlds
from-
apart. Yeah.
Yeah. When I first went, well, I had a really sort of interesting upbringing. It was just me and my mum. So it was just the two of us. My mum has mental health issues. And so I was like mothering from a really young age. And it's kind of all I knew. But the one thing is I got thrust into this life where I'm in Los Angeles. I'm 19 years of age. I've never been taught how to cook. I don't know how to do my own laundry. It was very scary, and I had to grow up extremely fast when I got to LA. And I was living on my own. I was very, very lonely. And at nighttime, I was reading the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting.
Oh, yeah.
I read that book.
I
when
read that
I was
one too.
19, by the way, like well before.
Not yet expecting.
Well before.
Teresa, that's hilarious.
This is hilarious. That's what I would read
You
at
really
nighttime.
did want to be a mum.
All I wanted to do was be a mum.
Yeah.
And then here I was in Hollywood and I was like alone in this big
Oh.
apartment being like, this sucks. But, mothering, I guess, or like, I think mothers come in all shapes and forms.
Totally.
And I was totally mothered by certain friends. And the very first movie I did was this movie called Take Me Home Tonight with Topher Grace and Anna Faris and Chris Pratt. And it was the movie where Chris Pratt and Anna Faris fell in love. And it was this like first experience of being in LA and these American actors, and they all took me under their wing. And they all kind of helped me navigate young Hollywood at the time, which a lot of other people don't have older mentors to say, hey, do this, don't go to these kinds of parties. This is what people are going to try and do to you, and they're going to objectify you, and this is the way it's going to be. So just be wary. And I just feel like that was such a gift at a young age. And, I was being mothered and fathered by these people who were 10, 15 years older than me. And I was just totally held at such a young age that I didn't get into any crazy situations or wild Hollywood parties. I was just kind of quite sensible. Came
how
home, read my
nice.
baby books.
How nice of them. Like they didn't need to do that.
Yes, that's right.
But
Yeah.
that's so special that they identified. Let's
Yeah.
look after this one.
There's something
Well, I
very
was- yeah.
exotic about an Aussie too. So
Yeah.
they're probably like, let's help her out.
Yeah, we'll take her under our wing.
Yeah.
It was really lovely because I didn't, it was all that first year and a half out there. I wanted to quit. I just wanted to come home and go back to Adelaide and be with my footballer boyfriend and just have babies. And I just did not. It was so scary for me.
Were you still dating the boyfriend?
Yeah, I was
distance?
up until like maybe halfway through
Yeah.
that first year.
Yeah.
And I would call back crying and just like,
Yeah.
I don't want this. I don't think this is it for me. And I was like this swinging pendulum. Like whilst it was exciting and everything in my career was really taking off, I was going in for auditions and booking these jobs, which by the way never happens, but especially these days. And it was just Hollywood was different back then too. Like there weren't a lot of Aussies yet over there. There was kind of this small group of us and we were such a novelty. So we'd go in and like all of us girls were booking jobs. Like almost every audition, like one of the Australian girls would get it.
Amazing.
And it was a really exciting time, but also I was completely like wrecked because I was homesick.
Yeah.
It was very foreign.
I can sort of relate to that, and this is a little bit embarrassing to even say out loud, but on a much smaller scale. I got my start in radio. I'm originally from Sydney and I moved across to Berry here in South Australia. I caught the plane and then I got the bus up to Berry and I just remember getting up there and being like, ugh, and it was all I ever wanted to do, and it was, my first exciting job, and it's, you do, like the homesick feeling really does make you want to throw in the towel sometimes. So I totally,
Yeah.
I mean, on a whole other scale, you're in another country.
But that's exactly
and
the same thing. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter like on
you don't
what
know
level.
anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're also putting your trust in all the people around you. And I was getting cheered on by my dad and my stepmom. Everyone was kind of cheering me on, like, this is amazing. Like, this is everything you've always wanted. I'm like, but I've also just always wanted to be a mom and have a simple life too. And I still feel like that. It's really funny to try and blend those two worlds because they're very radically different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And some days I'm like, I just want to be barefoot and pregnant and then like frolicking in the fields and not worrying about Hollywood. So it is a funny sort of conundrum that's followed me my whole life.
Yeah.
Is that partly why you have decided to split your time
Yeah.
between here and LA?
Definitely. I mean, there's such a sense of normalcy here.
Yeah.
My kids go to the same school that Jenna's kids go to, and it just feels so good to just be a mum.
Yeah.
And my kids have got their friends, and we're doing our sleepovers and our play dates, and it's just a world away from Hollywood and film sets and agents and business managers and the whole lot. And I crave simple. Because our lives are, and we travel so much. I mean, we really are barely in Adelaide. We're kind of in and out. Right now, we've just been following the work, and the kids have been enjoying this nomadic lifestyle. But I'm still, the pull to settle down somewhere is very real for me. And if that means sacrificing work opportunities, then I will. I mean, my son's 2 years away from, or even just 18 months away from going to high school.
Wow.
And even though the idea for him of settling down and like really planting our roots somewhere where we're only working once a year and we're mainly in school, like that's a big deal for him. He's like, I don't want to lose my adventurous life. And I was like, you will never not have an adventurous life. Like you were born into this family and this is what it is.
This is what comes
we
with
will
it.
always be traveling. You will not lose that. But I also think it's important for you to have the stability of like going to the sports carnivals and the swimming carnivals and the play dates and the school camps. And I want that for him because I got to have a really normal childhood in that sense. And it gave me so much to then take with me when I was off in the world exploring and having all these crazy experiences.
Yeah.
So let's spell out to the listeners exactly how you're able to juggle your two roles. I mean, your kids follow you back and forth, as you just said, so that you're able to be mum and work. How does it all work, Teresa?
Yeah, it's hard. Oh my God, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. I mean, I have just got to be so unbelievably organized. I mean, I feel even this morning I saw a mum from our school. I drove past her. I was like, oh, there she is. And then I was like, oh my God, I was meant to go to her kid's birthday party on Sunday. Oh my God, I completely forgot.
No.
Oh my God. And she had made sure there were vegan nuggets at the party. and I went to wave at her and she sort of looked at me as though like, are you not going to say anything? And then I realized and I was like, oh wow, I dropped that ball. So balls get dropped for sure. And it's imperfect and it's embracing the imperfectness of it, but actual down to the logistics, it's the kids come with me because I need to nurture them and love them and I still lie with my kids to bed at nighttime and read them all, and all four of them want me to snuggle them and we'll all be in one bed together and I'll sing them songs and we do our routine. And the idea of just sort of leaving them behind and not taking them with me, I don't think that would work for anyone. So my husband often stays back behind with my stepson or working, and then my mum travels with us everywhere. So I often say that my mum plays just as important role in raising my children as my husband does. Because she's just this like soft, sweet,
constant,
gentle, constant that's just always with us. And if I need to go do a podcast or do something, she's just always, Nana is always there.
Well, thanks, Nana, for helping out today so we could have you.
I know. She's at Pickle in the Middle with a little prairie right now. But she's the one that's always there. She's getting older now and So I like to, wherever we are, I try and find a local babysitter that'll split the days with her. So I usually work 12 hours a day. And so someone will take 6 hours, then my mum has the other 6 hours, just so she doesn't have all 4 of them for 12 hours a day.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's a lot.
Yeah. But that's even hard too, trying to find a babysitter. But usually it comes as a recommendation. A friend of a friend has used them before and they come highly recommended. And sometimes over the years, I'll just be able to bring friends with me as well.
Great.
But they're all having their own babies now. So that kind of is out. That option's out now. Every one of my friends that have traveled with me all have their own families now.
Have you ever turned down any jobs because of the kids and that you just haven't been able to make the juggle work?
Yeah, I have. That, there's been jobs that like shoot for 8 months in Namibia.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's not going to happen. But then there are other situations like A Discovery of Witches was shooting for 3 years in Cardiff. And that one I really had to think about. My oldest, when I started that, my oldest was only 3. So that kind of worked. We put them into a Montessori school and then we just lived in Cardiff.
How
for
amazing.
3 years. Yeah. So
That's Wales, isn't it?
Wales.
Yeah.
And Bodhi had this little Welsh accent for the first 3 years. It was like, it was so
Probably
sweet.
fit in quite well, the blonde hair.
Yeah. And Forrest's first words were like in this little cute Welsh accent. And it was actually adorable. But usually I'll turn down a project mainly if it's just not very good or if it just logistically doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be more of that once we settle. And we're in discussions now about like, let's simplify. Right now we have a house in America that we pay a mortgage on. We have a house in Adelaide that we pay a mortgage on. The house in Adelaide I grew up in that home, so we've been there for 30 years. But there's so much that needs to be done to the property. We're almost like, do we sell both things and then find where is that forever place?
Forever.
It might be Byron Bay, but we're still trying to suss that out. Yeah.
Big decisions.
Big decisions, yeah. And I'm trying to make them before Bodhi starts high school. Because once he's in high school, that's it. We've landed there. And, it'll be our base, wherever that is.
And you do a lot of work in Australia too, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I've been basically living in Sydney the last few years, between Sydney and Melbourne the last couple of years. And the Australian film industry is really booming right now. The scripts are great. Crews are incredible. Producers are really next level and vibrant. And so I keep returning back to Australia because the opportunities are so amazing. I think my American team are a bit bummed about that. They're like, why do you keep going back there? My American agent was like, you're just camping out in Australia. And I was like,
it's where I live.
I wouldn't call it camping. I'm not just camping somewhere in a campground.
Isn't it funny what they think about Australia though? You're just like on the freeway with a kangaroo next to you. It's like, that's not how it is.
What? No, I'm not camping. I'm also working.
I love that.
As Jenna said at the very start, I did go back to work after having my babies, and I struggled massively with the guilt of finding the right balance.
Yeah.
Have you had that same experience? Obviously, work is what you love.
Yeah.
Like with me, I loved my job.
Yeah.
But your new job is being a mum.
I know.
And tearing yourself between the two is so hard.
I feel like I've really navigated this with a lot of my friends as well, because I will say, I'm afforded a certain kind of privilege in the film industry, which, I'll be the first to admit, when you are one of the lead actors on a show, people will bend over backwards to make sure that you have your babies on set and that you are breastfeeding and you've got a room to breastfeed, and they set up toys and make sure your kids are fed and taken care of. I don't know how, quote unquote, regular mums do it with jobs which are 9 to 5 and they have to leave their kids at home. I just know that I've been so lucky. My kids, especially when they're really little, like I had to go back to work when Forrest was 3 weeks old.
Wow.
And he was just with me. He was just with me at work. And I would go on set, for my 10 minutes of shooting, and I'd come back and my baby would be in my arms and I'd be breastfeeding off to the side, talking to the crew, and all the crew would be passing my baby around.
Amazing.
And so I feel like it's almost unfair for me to speak to that because I'm so privileged in that sense. I haven't had to just leave them behind. But I've got other girlfriends who like sit and pump. They go in their breaks and they're like sitting in a toilet cubicle pumping and trying to make it work for their babies. And I just cannot imagine how challenging that is. Yeah.
And that childcare drop-off doesn't get any easier.
Oh, I did try. I thought my little kids, because the bigger kids are at school, I'd be like, oh, they want to go to preschool too. And we tried that and it was like, so I was like, okay, that's the end of preschool.
How do your kids do with the school in America, school in Australia? You know, how are drop-offs? Because I imagine there's a bit of an adjustment every time they settle back in.
Yeah, I think they've really, I think because it's all my kids know, they do not know one school, one friendship group. They only know like, what's the Melbourne school going to be like? What's the American school? That they are so adaptable that they go in and they find their people and they make their friends. And so they've got this school in America that's a vegan school. It's all plant-based.
Wow.
I know. So you don't have to pack them lunch. You send them to the school. They do like farm to table. They're out like picking all the food and then they make the food with the chefs and everyone eats together. So it's an unbelievable school and you only pay for what you attend. So it's very like entertainment industry friendly. And that's been great. And I thought like, oh, how is it going to go with the boys? And Forrest has his really beautiful group of friends there. Poet is, because the years are different, like the school years are different in America.
Of course.
I didn't put her in because she wouldn't have been in reception. She would have been in like kindergarten. So she hasn't gone in. They've all just very like open to meeting new friends. I will say this last time we were in America, I noticed some shape shifting going on from my oldest, like trying to fit in, and the American culture is very different to Australian culture, and the kids are maybe a little bit more progressive in certain ways, and it was the first time I noticed like one of my kids like trying to figure out like what version of themselves to be to fit in, and it was just an interesting observation, but also helped plant the seed of we need one school, one base. And we've decided that base is Australia. Where in Australia, we don't know exactly yet. But yeah, that was my last experience in LA a couple of months ago. I was like, all right, they're getting to the age where I think like we just find one place and that's it. Yeah.
With social media and all of that stuff at the moment, there's so much to consider. You do share a little bit of your kids online. I just wonder, your husband Mark, was that a conscious decision you both made together? Do you have boundaries around what you do and you don't share? Before, when you were talking about keeping the kids like to have, can I speak? Before, when you were talking about having your home base here and being able to bring a little bit of normalcy to their lives, I think we do want to show our kids exactly what our childhood was like and the simplicity of it all.
Yes.
The whole let them be kids.
And I just wonder, what's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I think that's why we keep coming back to Australia, because there's something just so grounding about this country and it's back to nature. It feels like kids are allowed to just be like kids. And I have found through my experiences, you know, I obviously have an American stepson. They're exposed to a lot more over there, which in some ways is really amazing. The things that they're taught, it's so unbelievably progressive, and it's such a beautifully diverse country, and culturally, it's wonderful in many ways. But I also feel like too much knowledge at too young of an age of some of the big life world things going on.
I mean, the fact that they have to do shooter drills and stuff
I
like
know.
that, Teresa. It's just too much.
It can be anxiety. I think it can build anxiety in kids, and I've seen it firsthand. And I really want to protect my kids from that because I was not exposed to all these like big things when I was a kid. I was actually just going out and playing footy with my friends and, you know, just climbing trees, and I didn't have to be so like in the know socially. And I think with social media, we do have access to it more. I'm the hardcore mum that will not let my kids get a phone until 16. I'm at 16 at this point. My stepson's different. He got a phone at 14. But in terms of social media stuff, my husband is an auteur. He's an artist. He makes movies with our kids in them, and that's a very sort of controlled environment. But I married who I married. He's such a radical, and he has a really unique, different perspective on life. He grew up as a homeless kid on the streets of Philadelphia. He lived in an abandoned car for the first however many years of his life, and he sees the world really differently to most people, and that's what I love about him. But in terms of him wanting to share our kids, like that's really coming from him. And I also want to be as authentic as possible, and I'd never be able to just like not fully be myself on social media. And I have a lot of friends who have business accounts, and they're like, it's almost like they're playing a persona. I'm such an open book that I'd never be able to do that. However, I have a private Facebook and a private Instagram where I share way more with my friends of the kids and the little videos and things that I wouldn't publicly share. And my 2 rules are, and with my podcast as well, nothing that would bring shame to the children and nothing that could embarrass them. And I always ask myself that if I'm going to tell a story on the podcast or if I'm going to share something on Instagram. Now the kids are at an age where I'm like, hey, I was thinking of putting this story up. Do you like that? Is this okay for you? And they're like, yeah, that's cool. Or, oh my gosh, I don't like, my hair looks weird in that one. Like, okay, I won't put it.
It doesn't, but okay.
Yeah, totally. And so that's kind of where our boundaries are. Yeah, with that stuff.
Yeah. I think I've heard you talk about Poet and her wanting to get into acting and stuff like that. She has a drama class or something. And Bodhi as well.
Bodhi's like he really wants to be an actor. He's like, this is what I'm doing with my life. I am going to be an actor. I was like, that will be your choice when you're older. But yeah.
So it's likely it's going to be the world that they sort of.
Yeah. I guess because they're so exposed to it and they have so much fun on set. I mean, they get like Poet goes into the hair and makeup trailer and she's using all the brushes and she's getting her hair done and she just loves, they'll have her like paint my nails or take my nail polish off or something. And there's like no one better than Australian crews. The crew lifestyle and the sorts of creative, beautiful camaraderie that you get on film sets. I'd be very happy if they wanted to be a member of the crew. And if they want to do acting, they totally can do acting. I mean, they have the ability to do anything they want, and I will always be a yes and person. I don't think I would ever impart my own experiences on them and say, no, watch out, don't do this, it's really hard. Whatever they want to do with their lives, it's fine by me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's just so true that you cannot talk about a woman in the workplace without acknowledging the role of mothers.
We're in the midst of a skills shortage and unemployment is also at an all-time low, Kez. And I wonder if businesses realise the talent and the opportunity with mums.
Well, the team at Harrison Macmillan know all about this, and they can help your business look beyond what's on paper and recruit the best people for your workplace.
They're a values-led recruitment agency supporting over 500 clients all over Australia to find and retain exceptional talent.
They're also committed to tailoring solutions to address your unique staffing challenges, and maybe that looks a little different to what you're used to, but they know the mums have skills.
Get in touch with the team at Harrison Macmillan and see for yourself why they're the best in recruitment. Visit harrisonmacmillan.com.au. The Mother Days podcast that you've got and the beautiful community that you seem to have built yourself in LA with these like-minded mothers, because we discussed earlier about how, it's a bit of a different world over there.
Yeah.
But I just we love listening to your podcast, but it just seems like you've found your people over there and you've got a beautiful environment for your kids to be themselves around and people that just get you and are like you.
Yeah. I mean, Sarah, my best friend, she's who I do the Mother Days with. She raises these really conscious-minded, beautiful kids. And I know that whenever we're with that family and we're hanging out with the Olsons, we have the best of times. Our kids just are all enmeshed. They're so similar and so many, and even like birth order wise, like Wyatt and Bodhi are really similar. And then Esme and Forrest are really similar. And Winter and then my two girls are really similar. And it's so interesting. But the one, I guess, like harder thing is that when you're only hanging out with other like-minded mums, when you get into the school environment and then your kids are friends with other kids who are raised in different ways, like it's an adjustment. And I know it's a part of life and it's a really good thing for them to be flexible and see like, oh, so-and-so's mum has really different boundaries and very different rules surrounding screen time and bedtime and the types of movies you can watch. And I think initially there was a part of me that just wants to protect. I just want to protect them. I don't want them to ever feel like they're left out or they're not getting the same sorts of freedom that other families give their kids. And then I realized like, oh, this is a part of life. This is character building. You're not always going to be only around like-minded people. So I think I've liberated myself from the worry of like, what if, friends at school are a bad influence on them? And, I've seen firsthand that your peers, and not through my kids, but just through growing up myself and having other friends and cousins and whatnot, be swayed by peers. And at a certain point, the peers' influence becomes the louder voice than the family's influence. And that's the only really scary thing, because what if you just you do all the right things and you're conscious and you teach them about mindfulness and loving themselves, and then they get into an environment and they totally shapeshift into just wanting to figure out how to fit in and be popular. And I guess that will always be my biggest fear, the back of my mind. It's like, oh, I just hope that they stay the path,
Yeah. I suppose we can probably relate. I mean, as teenagers growing up, you sort of hit a point where you start to care about that stuff more, and it's almost like a rite of passage. But these days it feels so much more, I guess, urgent with how fast they can grow up. And little girls these days certainly don't look like me when I was 10, It's
same.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And social media is scary to me.
Yeah.
Like kids having their own social media accounts and being on TikTok and getting messages and cyberbullying, all that stuff is really scary to me. That's why I'm like, oh my God, if I can just hold off, if I can have them hold off until 16, because for me, my most vulnerable age was 14.
Yep.
At 14 to 15, I didn't quite know myself properly, and I was really like morphing into whoever I thought I needed to be in the popular group or to make friends or to have boys like me. And you try on all these different versions of yourself. And so I always go back to my own experience and I'm like, all right, 14 to 15 is particularly vulnerable. I really don't want my kids on social media at 14 to 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They deal with enough at school to have to bring it all home with them, don't
Absolutely.
they?
Yeah. And certainly the discussions that my husband and I have, and we've got an 8 and a 6-year-old, so phones are
way away.
a long way away. But we have told the kids, when you get a phone, your first phone will be able to call us. That is it.
Yes, flip phone.
There will be no apps.
And
There
Nokia
will be
3310.
yeah, exactly.
But you say it feels far away, but realistically, there's probably kids that have them at that age
I've already had
and,
that.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I've had that
Yeah.
battle. My daughter will say, oh, but so-and-so gets to bring a phone to school. I said, well, A, it shouldn't be at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't need a phone.
Yeah,
But that's their parents' decision.
Yeah, like what 8-year-olds going off on their own, just like, woo, going down to the mall, Mum, need my phone.
I need a phone so I can ring you, Mum.
Yeah,
Mum,
yeah.
what? Hang on, you're always with me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And if you're not with me, you're at school.
Yeah.
And school can ring me.
Yeah,
you don't need your own phone.
Yeah. I've got, because I've been talking to my friends a lot about this, and we've been trying to figure this out. And I was like, what about an Apple Watch when they're away from you? From, let's say they go on their own somewhere with their friends at 12, 13, 14. And I was like, could an Apple Watch suffice? Like they could do little texties on there. You can call them. You could switch off the internet. So we've got this text thread with my girlfriends, and we're always throwing out ideas. And of course, Bodhi's like, so how old am I going to be when I get a phone?
16.
And I was like, you will literally be 16 years old. I am sorry, but that's just the way it is.
And even then, we'll decide when we get there.
Yeah, I don't
Revisit
even know if you have the internet then. So,
Oh, it's so true though. We're just so lucky that we made it through school without any of that. I would have had a phone probably at 13, but you know, like a 3310, and anyone I would have wanted to text would have been right next to me at school. And
yeah, and you play Little Snake, the old school.
it was
Snake
all about
on your
MySpace.
phone.
Yes, I remember
MySpace?
Yes.
As innocent as that was, it was almost like a cool lesson on coding because you design your feet. Remember that?
And I don't think you had. Was there private messages on that? I think everything was
On
just
your
like
wall.
out
Very
on the
public.
wall or whatever. Yeah,
It was a little bit questionable where you remember how you had your top
You had to
8?
rate your friends.
Oh
You
my
had to-
gosh.
That caused some shit
Yes.
with my
I
phone.
remember that.
Yes.
Wow.
That was wild.
It was
That's
why have I
kind of
been bumped out?
awful. Yeah. Wow. That's
so bad.
Oh my gosh.
Please
imagine
rate your
be-
friends.
My like 14-year-old self would not have been able to handle that. I think I was older when I had MySpace, but Jesus, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's really hard.
It is. Yeah, I survived all of my schooling years and going out years without any social media, like phones.
Oh
Because I'm
wow.
old.
Whatever.
And I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, my mum letting me go out with her phone that literally would just make a phone call. She'd say, you can borrow
Yes.
this for the night just in case you need it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
But that was
See,
it.
I wonder whether I would have
was
even
my...
taken mine out because we had paddock parties. So my mum would drop us off
wow.
in her van and there'd be no reception out there anyway. So
Yeah, we didn't, but I was definitely like boozing 14, 15, 16. I would go to the farm parties. They were always the
they were
craziest.
fun times.
Everyone like would park the car. There'd just be people making out in all corners of the paddock, and you're like, "Wow, this is crazy!" Like it was so fun. I used to go to like the Tintinara parties, like quite far out.
Wow.
In Tintinara.
Tinty.
Yeah. With one of my bestest friends in the world is her name's Kat Mason. And we like grew up on the farm going to all these crazy parties together and like getting totally wasted. And my dad would be like, hello girls, like no idea that we're completely drunk. Like we'd come home and be like, "Bleh," like 15. He was like, what angels? They're just angels, these
You're
girls.
good girls.
Yeah. He really thinks I was such an angel. Whereas my mum was like, you were an awful teenager.
We're always harder on our
She's
mums.
just rocking.
Yeah, she's like literally rocking. I was like smoking bongs at like 14 and 15, and she was like, Teresa's gone crazy.
We're losing her.
I know. My dad was like, gosh, you were an angel. I think because my half sister had a baby at 18. So like I will always look like the golden child because she was pregnant as a teenager. So my dad's always like, oh, you were just wonderful.
I love that.
I know. I'm always like, thanks, Abigail. Thanks for making me look good.
I need to ask you about your mum friends and how you keep on top of all of them because sounds like you've got friends in every city you've ever been to. Gosh, that's a juggle in itself because
And the different message threads that there would be.
Oh.
And you mentioned before, you're
you
always
just
throwing
don't
ideas
have
around with your
capacity
girlfriends.
for everybody sometimes. And I can take 4 weeks to reply to somebody.
Oh, well, I feel so guilty about the birthday party I missed on the weekend. I literally was like, no. And my mum's like, what's wrong? I was like, the worst thing has happened. And she was like, what? And I told her what it was. And she was like, I'm sure she'll understand. I was like, I am so sorry. So I'm not on top of all of it. But in terms of like my best girlfriends, I have my like 5 best mates in Adelaide that I see 5, 6. Let me rank all of them in my head. They're my
Don't
top
say their
8.
names.
My top 8 are, so I have like my really good close girlfriends. I'm only here for a week this week, and I have managed to go to each of their houses and have like full proper 5-6 hour hangouts with all of our kids.
Amazing.
I am so impressed.
Oh my gosh, it feeds the soul though. That is I come back
Fills your
here and I
cup.
just, fills my cup. We like download because we haven't seen each other for ages. So we all download together. And then if I'm here longer, I'll often have game nights where all of us will be together and we'll, have some champers and play Mafia and game nights. And that is really fun. So I'd say my solid good like best friendship group is here in Adelaide. And then in Sydney, I've got like another 3 really good girlfriends. And then LA, I probably have like 2 best friends in LA, and then I've become really good friends with a few other people from the podcast, like guests on the podcast, like Rachel Bilson from the OC Summer from the OC, and her best friend Olivia Allen. They've become 2 of Sarah and I's best friends. And then Rumer Willis, she was a podcast guest.
Yes. Yep.
She's become a really good friend of ours. Beate Prinsloo has become a really good friend of ours. She was on the she's one of Sarah's best friends. And so I'm kind of in my older years, I'm 38 now, like making new friends at this age is actually deeply meaningful because I really know who I am, and I really know like what it feels like to be in a mutually beneficial give and take friendship with someone. And I feel like I'm able to curate my friendships more than when I was younger. A lot of the time when you're younger, it's just friends from school. And now actually like actively choosing to make new friends at this age is really special.
Yeah.
And you get faster really quick.
Yeah.
Like you get like faster friends and deeper quicker than, people that you've sometimes known 20 years. Yeah, it's been really cool.
It's nice when the kids align in age, so it sort of works when you get together. I can just imagine your WhatsApp chat threads, though, with pings coming through from LA and pings coming through.
I'm terrible on one. On one of them, I'm always like, hello, it's me, the stalker. Like, I know I never write anything, but I'll pop in every now and then.
I'm reading everything.
They're like, are you alive? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm so busy. And also, I'm in Australia, they're all in America, and the time difference.
Zone.
I'm just like, guys, know that I all love you, but I love all of you, but I'm just probably not going to be writing back all the time. Yeah.
But I am reading it all.
Or sort of. A lot of the time there's been like 50 text messages.
Oh, that's the worst.
And
like, do I bother going back?
Because then it's like I'm not responding to the ones from like 7 hours ago because I was asleep. So, yeah. I try.
I love it. What do you want people to know about what is the perceived glamour, I suppose, about your life? I think we can fall into the trap, since we're talking about social media, about, that comparison and looking at someone's life and thinking they've got it all
the Insta versus
worked
reality.
out. And I mean, obviously you're just a normal everyday mum with the same kinds of worries that we all have. You just have this really amazing job. So
I think the tricky thing about social media is it's very easy just to show the highlight reel of your life, which is why I keep trying to figure out, okay, what are all the ways in which I can strip the barriers down a little bit? Because no matter what, when someone sees you in films or in a TV show, they put you in this different light where maybe they put you on a pedestal or whatever. And I'm like, I want to strip that barrier down. Like, my life is messy and it is ugly. And, for instance, recently I lost a baby. I was 3 months along. I had a pregnancy loss, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to show that, I don't just have all these like beautiful, healthy children. I also like get pregnant and lose a baby like other people do too. And my baby had Down syndrome as well. And I was like, I just want to be open about this because it shows like all sides of life. And it's very, very easy to look at someone and say, oh gosh, they have it all. They have, such a shiny, amazing life. And you get in these states of comparisons, because I've done it myself. I've looked at other people and been like, oh, that just looks so shiny. And you know that they're only showing little pieces of their life. So the more I can crack open, and on the podcast I'm very, very open about lots of things. And on social media I really try to be open too. And sometimes it's a bit like jarring for people.
I think it's refreshing. It's
Right.
so refreshing because so many people are trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yes,
and
yes.
have this public image of what their amazing life is like. Then along comes Teresa Palmer. You're calling it as it is. You're just calling it as it is. It is a hard job, this motherhood thing.
Yeah.
And your life isn't as cruisy as everyone might think it is.
Yeah.
And well done to you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm just, I have to be myself. I can't, and I have had feedback before from team members of the team being like, hey, do you think you should show some more like photos of you on the red carpet or from the movie? And I was like, I will never be a sexy selfie girl. That will never be me.
Hey, I've seen some of your pictures.
Oh my God.
Smoking.
Are you kidding?
What
No.
was that red carpet you did recently?
Oh, well, that one I have.
All that
I have
gold
to
look.
post
I
it.
loved
Oh,
that.
the Chanel?
I don't know. You were in gold. And
Oh, no, I wasn't. I was in white for that one. But the
Oh.
recent one, the recent Fall Guy premiere.
maybe that was the one I'm talking about.
Yes, I threw. Well, all of that stuff, when you sign onto a movie contractually, you promote it. So that was a part of that. But I brought Bodhi along to the premiere and we had the best
Oh,
night
that's
ever.
the
And
best.
he was hanging out with Ryan Gosling and got a photo. He was like, I got a photo with Ken. I was like, I know, it's Ken. So that was really sweet. But yeah, I definitely, every now and then I'll put on like a red carpet photo or a magazine photo just to appease the team.
Keep
Because
everyone
it's very
happy.
motherhood centric and it's very podcast centric as well. And, I can see like the followers being like, see ya, see ya, see ya, see ya. Like every time. When I posted, it got over a million views, my pregnancy loss video where I talked about it. But the amount of people that is too much, probably a lot of them male, you lose so many followers when you put things out there that are a little bit vulnerable or a little imperfect or, like very real or very raw. That's a lot for some people.
But
Wow.
it is totally outweighed by the people that you help by sharing like that.
right.
Isn't that?
It
Yeah.
was beautiful, I have to say, the amount of people who shared their story. And then I loved that other women who've been through loss can look through the comments and see other stories and be
Yeah.
like, oh, that was like me too. I had that same experience. And
I'm not the only person that's ever experienced this.
yeah.
There's this whole,
And then also, like I talked about in the podcast, my shame of even feeling guilt, of feeling sad, because I'm like, I should just be grateful. I have 4 beautiful, healthy children. Like, who am I to even feel sad about this? And I was like, but my heart feels sad. It's all, this baby's life is just as important as like when I was having my first baby or when I had my first pregnancy loss between my first and second kids. I was like, my truth is it felt really awful and it was a really sad thing. And I definitely had some feedback of you should just be grateful.
wow.
I know.
Wow.
People can be so awful.
Yeah.
I need to ask you too, Teresa, about going way back here, but when you met your husband, Mark, and you were instantly a stepmom, I mean, that's a whole big thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I met Isaac when he was 4. But it made me fall in love with Mark, really. I think our relationship fast forwarded, like it accelerated because I could see his way with fatherhood and it was so beautiful. And he is so emotionally available. He's like a man with deep, deep feelings. He's not like a basic Barry in any way. He wants to talk about his feelings. He's so sensitive. He's like in the most beautiful way. And so he's really attuned in with his kids. And I just saw the way he communicated with Isaac. He was practicing this parenting style called RIE parenting, RIE. And it was very, you almost treat them like they're their own individual. You don't talk to them in a baby voice. You explain everything that's going on. You check in with them before you say things like, I'm going to get you changed now. I'm taking your t-shirt off now. I'm going to take your shorts off now. I'm making you your pasta now. You almost are like commentating as you're going and treating them like, just the individuals that they are. He never talked to him in a baby voice. And I was like, whoa, that's so unique. Like our instinct is go like, oh my goodness.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Or not include them in conversations when you're talking to adults. But he would always have Isaac on his lap and really like saying, hey, Isaac, you know what we're talking about right now? Even when he was 4, he was like, we're talking about like Tim and his relationship with his girlfriend. And I was always like, that is so unique.
Yeah.
What an interesting way to parent. And then I adopted a lot of those techniques with Isaac. And then, of course, so much of that bled into the way I parent my kids.
Yeah, you can hear that.
Absolutely.
You like live life with your kids.
Yeah.
And they're so blended in everything you do together.
Yeah, I read this amazing Jean Liedloff book too. Oh my God, what is the name of it? I am going to Google it. Whenever my friends say, like, what is the parenting book? This is the parenting book. I always
love
say
this. A reco from Teresa herself.
Is called The Life and Times of Jean. No, okay, guys, and so you'll have to just delete this until I find it. Oh my God!
No, I love it though because it wasn't a deal breaker, I suppose, that your husband had this 4-year-old kid because you were looking at the parenting books already. You were ready.
Oh, I
She was ready from having the pram with the six babies, the
I know.
sextuplets.
Oh, that's the name of it. Yeah, so the sextuplets. Yeah, no. The name of it is The Continuum Concept.
The continuing
By
concept.
Jean Liedloff. Yeah, and it is about, I read it, it was about this woman who went into this like Amazonian jungle and she studied these tribal communities and why the kids were there was all these studies that the kids are so well attached and they're really they're just like happy and anyway, so she studied like the inner workings of these tribal communities and she said that it's because the parents fold the children into their daily activities. So the babies were strapped on the back of these women and were just observing, like even from 6 months of age, observing them in their normal interactions with people, their day-to-days. And they weren't treating them like little children. They were just folding them into the lifestyle. And they got to adapt and learn. And I was like, oh, that's a really interesting concept.
Yeah.
So the continuum concept I read while I was pregnant. And then I was seeing Mark doing it with his kid and Frankie, my stepson's mum, doing it as well. And I was like, oh, my goodness, this is really unique, really interesting. And then I applied that to my own parenting.
I really need to read that book because I feel as though I feel awful saying it, but I find it so hard to sit on the floor and play and be in that space. You've got a to-do list the length of your arm, but what I am good at doing is pulling the little tower over and my boy is helping me bake the treats and come help mummy fold the washing and we do that stuff together.
Same.
And I have to believe that that's enough because it's just I do sometimes do it, but it's hard because your mind doesn't. Yeah,
I am the same though. Apart from my first, I think with my first, I was 27.
You have all the time in the world.
You have all the time, and I was just like on the floor doing the things. But by the way, I actually think it did Bodhi a disservice in some ways because he always needs someone to play with him. He's always like Forrest, my second, will be off on his own playing with magnetiles and building battleships and he could do that for 7 hours if I let him. He just is so good at independent play. Bodhi, I was always playing with him on the floor and he's always like, who am I going to play with? Can I have a play date? And I was like, go to do something. Go like jump on the trampoline. I don't know.
Play with one of your siblings.
Yeah, so you have 17 siblings to play with. You are so lucky. I did not have that. I played with me and my dolls, me and my sextuplets. And yeah, but this book talks about how like you bring the kids with you when you can, obviously not when you're working, and you fold them into the grocery shopping and you do and you have them like really help you in a meaningful way. Like my kids really help me like unpack the dishwasher. We all, Forrest in particular, he's always like, let's take all the dirty clothes out and let's wash them. And Mum, do you want me to, because we've got a little toothbrush that the kids can do their stains with, and he like loves making the paste to get the stains off, and it's really dope. And I feel like so much of this came from that book, rather than just treating them as kids and that they don't have anything meaningful to add to an adult conversation. I think that's a really old school way of doing it as well. I don't know if, you remember growing up and you really just felt like a kid.
Should be seen but not heard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, it was the adults and then the kids. I hope that and my friends say this of Bodhi, that they're like, oh, he's like almost a little friend. Like we'll come over and Bodhi will ask my friends, like, how have you been? Like,
oh, wow.
And how's the house now, Bella? I know that you built the house.
That's gorgeous.
And it's so gorgeous. And my friend's like, what? What is happening?
Who is this?
Who is this little dude? I'm like, yeah, he really cares about. And I like that he wants to ask people questions about their lives and he's inquisitive in that way.
He's interested.
Yeah. And he's 10. He's old. He's a bit older now. He's like, he really is interested in like what adults are like, and he asks me questions all the time about that sort of thing.
I love that.
It's cute.
That's so cute. Teresa, I said this to you the other day, but I feel as though you have this Hannah Montana life and you are able to sort of have the best of both worlds, as that show said too. But I really appreciate the way you've been able to share with us today and give us a beautiful insight into how you do it all.
Oh, well, thanks for giving everyone the platform to be able to do that and to share. I love it. I love seeing all these mothering podcasts pop up because it can be a really isolating time in someone's life. So, it's all about building community. So thank you to both of you for the work you're doing.
Thank you. Now, right back at the start, you gave us a word to describe you, pre-children, which is bouncy. I love it. What about a word to describe who you are now that you are a mum?
I don't know what the actual one word is, but I feel like I am closer to me than I ever have been. Like this really just feels like me. So is me an okay word?
I love that. Right.
That feels, yeah. And after I had kids, I was like, oh, this is it. This feels, yeah.
I feel like I've got my sextuplets.
I'm back. I've come full circle now. I've almost got the second. I need 2 more and then I'm good. Or 1 more and then I'll have 6.
Love it.
Amazing. Teresa, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both. Yay.
Thank you so much for joining us on How Motherhood Changed Me. We'd love you to be part of the conversation by connecting with us on social media. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review and subscribe.